One of the hardest conversations for leaders to have is when they have to let an employee go, terminate them for poor performance. Now, one of my managers in the past came to me one day and said, "Can I ask you a question? How is it that when you terminate someone, they shake your hand, they thank you for the opportunity of working at the company? Why are they not more upset?" Well, I think there's a couple tactical things that you can learn, strategies you can follow so that there is no drama during this time. Because as I said, it's a really tough situation. Think about it. You're, as a leader, sitting there at your desk, you're shuffling the papers, you have all of your documentation, you're a little nervous because you don't know how this conversation is going to go. And then all of a sudden you hear, and off we go into the conversation. So what I want to share with you are some tactical tips today to help you through this difficult situation on the episode of You're in Charge Now What, where we help you become the leader that you want to be, but more importantly, you need to be. So, letting someone go, poor performance. It's an awkward time, but more importantly, you owe it to them to make sure that you help them through this hard time as well. Remember, someone's losing their job. Now, I'm basing all of this information and strategies over the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times I've had to let people go for poor performance and made huge mistakes. So I'm hoping to save you some of that drama. Now, in order to get to this point of how to handle that conversation when they're sitting right in front of you, we have to go backwards to the beginning and how we set the table, so to speak, when we have employees in our business working for us. In previous conversations, previous episodes, we've talked about having a good process for training and developing your team. It's incumbent on you as a leader to make sure that you are helping people be successful through proper training, proper inspection, proper feedback, proper retraining. The question we have to ask ourselves when we're at a point of terminating or letting someone go, how did we get to this point? Did we know this was happening? And what did we do along the way to help avoid this conversation? So if you've done everything you possibly could, meaning you've trained and you've retrained, there is a point, and we talked about this in the episode called The Training Tree, where we talked about this point where someone is not doing what they're supposed to do because we've gone through and retrained everyone. So it's not a knowing problem, right? So our team understands what they need to do. They understand the expectations of what we're looking for. It is a doing thing. Something's preventing them from doing the actions necessary to generate the results we want. And we have to dive into that. So as we said, once I've retrained them, got them back on track, if I realize that I'm not getting the results, again, people are not doing the actions they need. We've said this multiple times. Actions cause results. So if I'm not getting the results, I have to sit with that person and have that conversation that says, "Glenn, remember in training, what are you supposed to be doing?" In a situation like this, because it's not a knowing problem, where they say, "I know exactly what I need to do and I'm not doing it," we have to get them to admit that. We have to understand why. Maybe the conversation turns that they disagree with the process or they think their strategy's better. And then you can have that conversation or make the decision if we test their strategy versus yours, whatever you want to do. Maybe it's something that's happening outside of work, but you have to get everybody aligned to say, "I understand that. I'm empathetic to that, but we have to generate our results. We need you here. We need you performing at a high level." The biggest mistake for letting someone go and why there's emotions and why there's drama, it's because no one took the time to let the employee know they're heading down that road. So in this situation, for me, what I would be saying is to the person, we are documenting the actions that you're doing or not doing. Right? I'm very clear of saying, here's our expectations. These are the actions you're supposed to be doing, and you're not. And we've talked about it, and it's your choice. So now you're putting me in a position where I have to document this. Notice the word track. I'm letting them know that they're putting me in the position where I have to document this because they're willingly not doing what we need them to do. Also notice We're focusing on actions. Make sure your word track is focusing on the actions they need to do, not personal. Don't say things, for instance, I don't see the effort. You don't look like you're in it. You're really letting down the team. Those are all vague, and it's more that information is received by an employee as you're picking on me. You don't like me versus no, you're supposed to be doing 30 phone calls a day and you're doing 15. You're supposed to log these. You're not doing that. These are actions. It's away from emotions. If we focus on actions, we can get them to improve their actions to generate the results or not. But the key is we document. It's so important that you document this. The failure of a lot of managers, they think that just telling somebody is enough. I've made that mistake. But there has to be a point where you say, we have to put this on paper. Whatever your escalation strategy is, if it's a written warning and then, or a verbal warning and a written warning and a second written warning, or however you want to play this, your escalation process, but you have to document it. There's 3 things we have to put on the documentation. Number 1, what the expectations, what were they supposed to be doing? Number 2, what they are currently doing. Remember, actions, not emotions. Number 3, what we need them to do and the timeline that we need them to do it by, right? Those are the 3 things. What they were doing, what they should be doing, and what's the course correction they need to do, and a deadline. Because if you don't put a deadline, they could think they have all the time in the world, and you think, well, they better get this together in a couple days. Lastly, it's not part of those 3, but it is a conversation to say what the next level of escalation is. Let them know. If this continues, if I show up in 3 days, 4 days, a week, whatever the time frame is, and the behavior has not corrected, you're putting me in position to escalate. And now we're going to move to a final warning, or we're going to move to a suspension, whatever the next step is. Make it clear that that's going to happen and make them sign it. Now, if they want a copy, that's fine, but you have this documentation in their file. The reason is when you escalate it to the next conversation or the next level during your conversation, they could turn around and say, well, you didn't tell me that. And you can pull out the previous documentation and say, I wrote it right here and you signed this. This is your signature. It takes away the, you didn't tell me that. That's not what you said, because it's all documented in their file. If we get to a point where we have to terminate them, one little tip I've tried multiple times, because one of my faults as a leader in the past, and still a little bit today, is I think I can help people, fix people, and so I keep giving them chances until I just can't anymore. So try it. Maybe sit down with them and talk to them on a more personal level and say, I'm confused. Why would you want to put yourself in a position to lose this good job that you're good at? Or maybe it's family. Well, you're providing for your family. Why would you want to lose the job? Maybe try another person in your business to coach them. Maybe there's a personality conflict. It's happened times with me. I thought I was getting through to them, but I took someone else on my team and said, could you go work with them? And it got solved. And I don't care how it gets solved. I just want it solved. But if that doesn't happen and you have to have this conversation, now we're bringing ourselves into that day, right? The knock on the door. So here's a couple things that you need to have in place when you have this conversation. You need to have another person in the room. Preferably, if you have an HR person, they have all the paperwork that you need to do to terminate someone, exit paperwork, whatever you need to have, a checklist if there's any information they need to give you, or maybe there's some a computer or some technical passwords that they need to give you so that when they leave, they don't have anything that could hurt your business. But you have all of it ready, because again, this is a time it can be very emotional and stunning, and we want to keep this as professional as possible. So have that other person in the room, preferably HR. If you don't have a full-time HR person, then make sure it's someone else at a leadership position, preferably not someone who is in their same department. So again, that takes out that they don't like me, that's why I'm getting fired. You bring them in and you do all the talking. Keep it very succinct, very brief. And you say, Glenn, we've been reviewing your performance. We've documented the problems that we've had before. We've inspected it, and we're still seeing those same failures to generate the results because you're not doing the actions. And now we are going to part ways, and we are going to let you go. I need you to sign this paperwork. They'll take care of it and getting all right. And you just move right on. It's really not a conversation. I'm sorry to say it's not a conversation. It's one-sided. Keep it very simple. Don't get into emotions. Don't get into anything about them personally. That's basically the word track. Now, if they turn around and want to have a conversation, or they say, well, I don't understand. We've talked about this before. We have documentation. It's been brought to your attention. I'm sorry. We've made the decision. We are going to part ways. We're going to have to let you go. Just keep reiterating that, even if you have to stand up and say, I think we're done. Having a drawn out conversation is not going to help either side. Getting emotional is not going to help either side. So just keep it very, very simple. As I said, then get them over to whoever has to handle the exit paperwork. Make sure you have all of any assets that they have under their, as I said, computers or key cards to your office or passwords, anything like that. And then we move along, and then let HR should be there to say your last paycheck is going to be here or on that day, and you're going to get your money. So again, we close all the loops. Again, it's out of respect. Keep it professional. Sometimes do it either first thing in the morning or do it at the end of the day. Try not to do it in the middle of the day or at lunchtime where they have to walk out in front of everyone. Try to be respectful of that as best you can. So again, it's a really difficult situation, but leaders, you need to understand how to do this correctly. So again, let's just quickly summarize. You need to have a training process in the beginning where you are coaching and developing them. You have to have an escalation policy or process where documented disciplinary forms are generated. On those forms, we need to have what is expected action-wise, not emotions. Number 2, what they are doing in terms of actions and where they're falling short. Number 3, what they need to do, what they need to fix in terms, again, action, tangible, deadline. And then also what the next escalation point is if they don't do it. And again, try your best to win them over. Try to do everything you can to get them back on track. But sometimes people just are not able to do the job, or they're choosing not to do the job. And you have to make sure that the team is not affected. Because if you don't take care of that, what's going to happen is everyone else is going to see bad behavior being accepted, mistakes being accepted, not training mistakes, conscious mistakes of I'm not going to do this, a conscious decision to not comply. If you let that go on, your performance of the rest of your team who are high performers are going to go, why am I working so hard? Why am I doing this? And slowly that is going to drop back down. So again, it's a super important tool that you need in your toolbox to be able to handle this professionally. So again, I hope you found value. If you're here at the end of the video, please make sure you subscribe. Please share this out. There are so many people in leadership positions that they just were never trained. They're sort of thrown in because they were good at something. Now they think, well, you could be a manager. And that's the goal of this channel, is to help people build the skills necessary to lead their teams effectively and be the leader they want to and need to be. So thanks so much. Love to hear your comments as well. I appreciate your attention. And as I say at the end of every episode, you're in charge, but now you have a new tool to help you become more successful. See you in the next episode.